Good evening, folks. It's 7:01, and I'm going to call the Board of Ed meeting to order. And the first item on the agenda is Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, and liberty and justice for all. I want to start out by saying, unfortunately, we had two board members who couldn't be here with us tonight. The vice chair of the board, Brendan O'Neill, and Dionisi Torres. So, but we have more than a quorum, and we'll proceed. I would entertain a motion from the board to appoint Dr. Iris Gamero, to add an agenda to the item. I would say after approval of minutes, to add an agenda to the item to appoint Dr. Iris Gamero as our superintendent of Windham Public Schools effective July 1st.
So moved.
Motion made by Katina.
Second.
Seconded by Ilda. Is there any further discussion on the motion to add this item to the agenda after approval of minutes? This is a very exciting item to add to the agenda. And so all those in favor of the motion that's on the floor, please indicate by raising your hand. Okay, thank you. So we'll have first item after the pledge is approval of minutes. I would entertain a motion to approve the minutes from the March 26th board meeting.
So moved.
Motion made by Mark,
Second.
seconded by Alicia. Any further discussion on that? All those in favor of that motion, please indicate so by raising your hand. It's unanimous. Thank you very much. And now we're on to the item to appoint Dr. Iris Gamero as the new superintendent for Windham Public Schools. She's here with us this evening with her husband and her close friend, and we will be hearing from her in a little bit. But I would like to talk for a minute about the process that we went through with this. The board decided when Dr. Tracy Youngberg was leaving the district in the middle of the school year that we needed to proceed as quickly as possible with starting a search process, which we started in earnest after the beginning of the new year. We decided that we wanted to hire a consulting firm to help us with that process. We sent out an RFP for that, and we interviewed several candidates and chose the CABE search services. And Mary Broderick, our consultant, is here with us today to help us with that search process. We then put out a survey to the district to ask people in the district who live in Windham and work in Windham what they wanted to see in a new superintendent. And Mary, with the help of Katina on some translation, did a number of Zoom focus groups with people about what they would like to see in the district. And then Mary presented to us, I think it was the first meeting of February, the profile of a leader, what we were looking for out of a superintendent candidate. We also helped our consultant put together some outline for the posting for the position. And we were very pleased to get many candidates interested in this position. That group of candidates was winnowed down to 17 or 18? 18? To look at, to review, for the board to review. And then we decided to invite 7 of the candidates in for interviews. We spent several Sundays doing interviews, and then we narrowed that down to 2 finalists. We gave the 2 finalists some homework. We asked them a question about how they would work to improve school climate. And we had wonderful presentations from the 2 finalists on that, and we did the interviews. And on March 23rd, we came to agreement unanimously that Dr. Iris Camaro was our candidate here for Windham. And she accepted our offer, and we've been working very hard to put everything into place to get to this evening. Dr. Gamero will be beginning her work in the district on July 1st. And you'll hear from her in a minute, but she's a committed leader with over 20 years of experience in the classroom and at the school district leader at the school leadership level. She currently is serving as Assistant Superintendent of Human Capital and Talent Development at Manchester Public Schools. And she also served as the principal of Illing Middle School, both in Manchester. You can see in her bio, in the press release that I handed out to some people in the audience, more information about her, but one of the most lovely things about Dr. Gamero, from our point of view, is that she has a background that's very much like many of the families in our district. She grew up on the island of Puerto Rico. She came to the mainland, I think in high school, and worked very hard with the support of her family and her parents to attain a good education, and was the first person in her family to get a doctorate. She has experience with English language learners, which is also a very important thing for this district. So we're very excited to be appointing her here tonight. And I think what we'll do is we'll take a vote, we'll talk about it and we'll take a vote, and then we'll ask you up to the microphone to accept. Okay? So, given that, is there any discussion? Anybody want to say anything? What? Yes, I need a motion. Sorry, thank you. You get
So
tunnel
moved.
vision. Motion made by Ilda,
Second.
seconded by Mark. Any discussion? Katina?
I'm going to say that it is a pleasure to have you as our new superintendent. And I'm going to add, if I may, that all the votes that we did for candidates were anonymous. We didn't know who voted what, and Mary was so delighted to see that your choice was unanimous, and we didn't know who was voting for whom. So I am very pleased to say that.
Anybody else want to say anything about the process or Dr. Gamero? Okay. Were you going to say something, Paul? Okay. I would just want to say to the board, we did talk about the contract for the superintendent. We talked about the parameters of the contract, and the board charged me with the role of meeting with Dr. Gamero and talking about what the contract parameters of the contract would be. We had a meeting, the search committee had a meeting about this last week, and we finalized the terms of the contract. So I hope that when we vote tonight, we will also agree that we are voting to approve the contract that has been negotiated with approval of the board. Does that make sense to folks? We had the contract drafted up by our attorney, Jessica Ritter, and so it's in compliance with all the requirements in the district as far as what we offer people in administrative positions. So,
So-
yes, Mark?
Need then to amend the original motion to include the contract, or do you want to?
Want to do that? You can do
I think
that.
so.
You want to amend the original motion? Who made the motion? Would you accept an amendment to the motion, Ilda?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. And who made the second?
I did.
Okay, so it's okay with you.
I'll live with it.
Okay, so all those in favor of the motion on the floor to appoint Dr. Iris Gamero as our superintendent beginning on July 1st, 2025, and also approve the contract that was negotiated with approval of the board. All those in favor of the motion, please indicate by raising your hand. It's unanimous, and I know Dionisi and Brendan, if they were here, would be voting yes, too. I did speak to them at length. So congratulations. So would you like to come up to the mic here and say a few words?
Absolutely. Good evening, Board Chair-eyed board members, students, staff, and members of our school community here this evening, as well as those joining us online. It is a true honor to be standing in front of you tonight. I am proud and deeply grateful for the opportunity to serve as the next superintendent of Windham Public Schools. As a first-generation high school and college graduate, a Latina who came to the U.S. in 11th grade with limited English proficiency, but limitless dreams and aspirations, this is a humbling moment for me. One I will carry with pride and a profound sense of responsibility. First, I want to thank the Board of Education for placing their trust and confidence in me. I appreciate the thoughtful, rigorous process that brought us to this moment. I understand the magnitude of this role, and I am committed to lead with integrity, vision, tenacity, and a deep care for our students, families, and staff. To everyone who shared their feedback through interviews, surveys, and engagement sessions, thank you. Your insight, your expectations, and your hopes and dreams for Windham Public Schools solidified my desire to step into this leadership role and affirmed my belief in the strength of this community. I also want to express my heartfelt gratitude to the many mentors, colleagues, and friends who have supported me along the way. Your wisdom continues to guide me. And to my family, my siblings, my husband Cesar, who's here with us this evening, my daughter Natalie, my son Brian, thank you for your unwavering love, patience, and support. You are my rock. I am truly honored to be joining a district with such a proud legacy. Windham is a community rooted in resilience, strengthened by diversity, and committed to excellence. I want to recognize the outstanding work of Acting Superintendent Mr. Weathers, the leadership team, our educators, and everyone who has worked tirelessly on behalf of our students. You have built a strong foundation, and I am honored to join you in carrying that work forward. As the new superintendent, I bring a deep commitment to listening and learning. I believe in shared leadership, in open dialogue, and in the power of partnerships. My focus will always be on what's best for our students, every student, in every school, every day. Together, we will build on what's working. We will face our challenges with courage and determination and create new opportunities to ensure that every single student at Windham Public Schools is able to thrive. I believe in this community, and I am confident that together we can soar to new heights. A nuestra comunidad hispanohablante de Windham, me siento muy orgullosa de representarlos y de ser la próxima líder del distrito. Y me comprometo a asegurarme de que todos nuestros estudiantes tengan acceso a la mejor educación posible, porque ese es su derecho. Así que pueden contar conmigo. Thank you again for this opportunity. I am proud, I am energized, I am fully committed, and I can't wait to get started. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We're very excited and we'll try to not overwhelm you with requests before you leave your old job. But look forward to any opportunity that you would like to avail yourself of getting to know Neil and the rest of the team in central office and getting out to know more about the district before you start your job. Just feel free to reach out to the board and to Neil. And we'll be happy to have any conversations that make sense. Does that sound good? Great. Also, we will be sending out information about Dr. Gamero to the full district this evening. This evening. And we are sending information to the local media too about this. I'm sure your colleagues in Manchester are going to be sad to see you leave, but their loss is our gain. And without any further ado, I guess that's it for this item on the agenda. And you are welcome to stay as long as you would like, but we certainly understand if you and your family and your friends want to get together and celebrate tonight too. So feel free to stay as long as you like or leave. Okay? Thanks. Thank you, Mary. So the next item on the agenda is public comment, and I can't see whether there's anybody online that raises their hand, but is there anybody who would like to speak during public comment? Anybody in this room or anybody online? I don't see any hands raised. Okay, thank you. We'll keep moving along then. Board Chair's report. I do want to sincerely thank, we got a comment, a welcome from somebody online. Good, wonderful. I will say that the board sincerely appreciates all the people that came out to our budget forum. Was it just a week ago? I guess. Yeah, a week ago here in this auditorium. It seems like a long time since then. This room was filled with Windham Public Schools staff and some families and 7 stellar students who came to talk about our district and its successes and why the Board of Finance should be investing, deciding to invest in our district and send a good budget along to the taxpayers for approval in May. We'll be talking more about this topic under discussion items on the agenda, but I do want to thank everybody who came. It was a really impressive showing, and I especially want to give a shout out to Windham Center School because their school is closing at the end of this year, and they still had a wonderful contingent of folks sitting right up there, sort of where you are now, Kathleen, in support of Windham Public Schools. So thank you. I also want to mention that we are we're going to have some work ahead, and we'll talk more about that in the budget discussion under the discussion items. I also want to thank Neil Weathers, who has been doing an amazing job as acting superintendent. And without knowing who the candidate was, working with me tirelessly over the past couple of weeks to get us to this point, and never once asking me to break my code of silence. So I appreciate that. Thanks, Neil. And that's it for now. We're on to the acting superintendent's report.
Good evening, and to my new future boss, welcome. I'm glad you are here. So tonight, I just have a few items. The first item is the John Adamo Scholarship. Actually, the reason I just bring this up, some staff actually reached out to me about this particular scholarship. It's going to be through the Scholars, Dollars for Scholars, and they just wanted people to know that they could donate to it. And I just felt it was a good segue to the last board meeting where our board chair mentioned that he's a lifelong educator, and he was served on the Board of Education. So if you reach out to the Dollars for Scholars, you can donate to this scholarship in his name. And so I just wanted to make sure that was known to the public, and I wanted to acknowledge the teachers that reached out and asked if I could make it public. So then the next agenda item is our elementary school parent forums. These are for our current fourth graders and our current fifth graders who will be going to the middle school. They're part of the cohort of the fifth grade class that will be returning to the middle school. We actually had our very first parent forum last night for parents of Sweeney and Windham Center students. There will be another parent forum tomorrow, April 10th, at North Wyndham. And then when we return from break, there will be one on April 24th. I would say, and I'm looking out because I didn't really pay attention, but there was about 20 people at the forum last night. And we just gave an overview and tried to, kind of the context of it was, I put myself in the mind of what a parent of a fourth grade student going to a middle school for maybe the first time, what that could feel like. And so we gave an overview of that, and then we got some really good questions from the parents. So what we're going to do is create like a FAQ sheet. We're going to eventually get it on our website, but what's helpful is the next group, we're going to bring those questions to the next group and share. So that was really good. And those will be going on. And then there's more events to educate them about the middle school. One of the things just connected to this is we are anticipating by May 1st that we'd have the furniture, but it looks like by the end of April break, all the new furniture will be in. So one of the things parents are asking if they'd have an opportunity to see where their children will be going, which I think is a very reasonable question. So there'll be more to come, but I wanted to let the board know that we've started these, and we're very excited to do so. The next thing is something I shared in a board update, but just publicly want to say, this was really just really fun. And it's not often that you get Rita really excited, but this was an opportunity. Rita Parsik, our finance director, we had a financial literacy kickoff for students. So Principal Kavanaugh chose the grade 10 students because they're the first cohort that's required to take the financial literacy course by the time they graduate. Oh, apologize. Thank you. And so they're the first group. So there's been a tour with the state treasurer and the state comptroller, and they came and in this very auditorium, they did a really great presentation about financial literacy skills. And then the two speakers are very dynamic, and they spoke about their own experiences not having that knowledge when they were their age, and really connecting with the students, I thought. So they played a large scale game of Jeopardy. The students are really into it. It was a lot of fun, and just a really great way to kick it off. So I wanted to share that, and we got visits from two very important people that work at the state. So that was really cool. So that's that. And then just to let everybody know, as an Alliance district, I don't even know the number now. I think it's up to 36, but whatever the number is, We're one of the 30-plus districts that are Alliance districts. And as part of that process, obviously, we enjoy the Alliance grant, which provides us a large fund. It's 10 million plus for our district, which is very, very important. But it requires that we do reporting. It's called an Alliance tracker. We do beginning of the year, middle of the year, and end of the year. And we have visits from a state team. Now, normally in the past, we would fill out a large report. This particular visit, for some reason, they just came and had a conversation and we talked about our progress with math achievement, reading achievement, chronic absenteeism, and those sort of measures, and just had a nice conversation. Mr. Harris, who's in the crowd, was there along with Interim Assistant Superintendent Beth Brunei. And we just talked to the two representatives from the turnaround team. I don't have any formal report to share, otherwise I would, because they didn't follow up with anything in writing, but just wanted to make you aware that we're having those meetings. And then,
Is there anything else?
no,
Okay,
actually,
go ahead.
something that's not on my report, and I just wanted to make just a mention of it. And again, I share this with the board just to publicly talk about. This past Saturday, the Windham Task Force to Prevent Child Abuse and Neglect held their 10th annual event, Make Time to Play. It was a wonderful event, and Windham Public Schools was proud to co-sponsor the event. And what's really great is we had several of our staff were in the school mascot costumes, and our family liaisons were there. And the Mother Nature wasn't too kind to us on that particular day, but it didn't matter because people showed up and many of our staff came with their own families to participate. And it was just a wonderful event.
May I add that thank you to Alicia and Ilda and Brandon, who all also showed up, and Neil was a trooper and was there from the beginning. So thank you for helping out.
It looked like you had lots of tents, so people could get under if it was drizzling, right? Yeah.
140 kids got little bags, so we know that we distribute those. So
Mhm.
imagine that plus parents. So it was very successful, even in the rain.
Wonderful. Thank you. Are there any questions or comments on any of the acting superintendent's report? You guys are doing a lot of good work. Thank you very much to you and the team. Committee reports. Mark, you're on for ad hoc elementary school construction.
All right, thank you very much. Well, I'm unfortunately not able to say that we were able to excite Rita about this because she wasn't at the meeting, but I'm sure she would be happy to hear what we've done. At the meeting, Rich, who was from our consulting from Arcadis, gave us an update on the land testing. 3 phases have been finished, and they're working on the 4th, which is the contamination of the soil, being the nature of the business before we were there. They just want to make sure there's no contaminants in the soil. They did find some underground tanks, one of which still has fuel, but that'll be taken care of in the pre-purchase process. And there was no leakage. So again, we're looking good in terms of not having any major or even minor ecological problems there. We then went on to, I updated the committee on the discussions we had with the town. As you all are aware, we're very concerned with timing of the referendum and timing of this. We need to make a June 30th deadline for a grant proposal to the state that would then be followed up, we hope, with a referendum in the later fall. But we met with the town to make sure that they were still on board with us in terms of moving forward. And we received assurances from the town mayor and the town manager that they're still in agreements with us in moving forward on the project, as depends on how the timing works out. Jeff from our Arcadis group and Neil then reviewed the proposed changes to the ed spec to make sure the actual ed specs reflect what we're looking for in the project. There were several changes made. I believe we're voting on that tonight to approve it, because that's one of the first steps in the grant application, is to have our ed specs complete. Antonia, who is another member of the consulting group, presented a presentation over the 3 different potential designs for the building. and how they might look. She also brought with her a large site map that had scale versions of what the various buildings would look like and the play areas and parking so that we could actually envision them on the site itself. Because the meeting was virtual and we didn't have a good way of presenting that, we're going to bring that back at the next meeting where I believe we'll make the next meeting live so that everyone can be there and actually physically see and play and touch the buildings. We also then approved to pay the invoices for the first 3 land tests, and we adjourned.
Nothing going on that committee.
Now we're slowing down. We're
You're
taking vacation.
slackers. Does anybody have any questions or additions to Mark's report for Mark? Yes, Mary.
Yeah, I just wanted to comment, when we did the referendum for the high school renovation, we had it in the November regular election. So, and it passed first time. I'm just a little concerned if we have 2 referendums in the fall or if we keep putting this one off.
We actually, if we submit on June 30th, we have to have the referendum by that November election. So what we can do with the town, because the town is the group that sets the referendum date, we can talk about the pros and cons of doing it with the municipal election or not. But it's going to be a lot of work, and let's hope we aren't dragging on budget referendum too. So I think we'll make a decision. We have to put a date in the application, correct? Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So we'll have to make that decision in the next month and a half.
Yeah, the important part of the meeting with the town fathers was to make sure we're still online because the land purchase will be the first vote. And then we still have the commitment to, it's the new town manager, so we want to make sure that he was aware of what we were doing, and everyone seems very positive for it at this point.
There was some talk about it not having to go for a referendum.
Right.
Yeah. But to a town meeting instead, which would be nice for us not to have a
Right.
2 referendum.
And as I recall, Mary, you were impressed with some of the building designs.
Katina, were you going to say something?
No,
Okay.
policy.
You're just getting ready for policy. Okay. Thanks. So I know we worked a lot on the ad hoc elementary school consolidation with our public presentations and forums during the last couple of months, and we put things on hold while we're trying to get a budget passed, but we will return to more public outreach on things once we get through the budget. Thank you. Policy, Katina.
Okay, so our very active policy committee, thank you, Neil and Beth, for bringing the information we needed, continues to update policies we have adopted based on the legislative wording and updates from the state of Connecticut last year. So in the 4,000 series, in the series of family and medical leave, of note is now we discussed many changes, small changes in the vocabulary, et cetera. But of note is that people who are organ donors now can classify for family medical leave, as well as there's more articulated, clearly definition on the medical leave for instructional and non-certified employees. I still have difficulty understanding the definition added for genetic information and on instructional employees, but maybe Neil can explain that if somebody has a question. On the 4,000 series also regarding employees and Section 504 Rehabilitation Act, the only change that the legislature did was to change the number of days in which we have the ability to come to a conclusion if there is a grievance, and this will apply more to the superintendent and the decision made when the staff has 10 days and to appeal a decision, and then the superintendent will have 10 days to decide upon that. And 30 days later, the decision must be completed. Still on the 4,000 series, the employee and student teacher checks. Of importance is that the legislature has decided that if your record was sponged, right, Neil? Yes, sponged. So you committed some sort of crime, not against a child, of course, and that went away, for example, people who used to smoke marijuana, THC, and that has gone away now because it's legal. That wouldn't count against you for employment purposes, correct? Yes.
Yeah, so the statute basically is
exemption.
if anything from a criminal history or background has been erased,
Yes.
an employee no longer has to disclose that.
Yes. And then the next meeting, and we will be discussing a formal policy to protect our undocumented students. Norwich school system and Wheaton school system have adopted policies that are up to date, and Beth Brunetti is going to help us look at both of them and decide upon which one, because we have a regulation or a statement, but now we're going to have a policy. And last but not least, we're going to discuss the 5,000 series with student discipline and others in terms of non-discrimination. So that's what we will do in the next meeting. Thank you. Do you have anything else to add, Lynn?
No, I mean, it was, just to be clear for people, I know it's a lot, but really a lot of, most of it has to do with
Updates on the
updates and
legislator.
state legislation that are requiring us to make these changes to our policies.
Yes.
So it's not like we're, coming up with a lot of new things to do. We're complying with state laws.
Laws.
So,
I just want to add of note, those policies are not in this meeting.
right.
Because the policy meeting, okay. So the policy meeting just happened Monday after our board packet was presented.
Yes.
So it'll be on the next meeting agenda, and we'll talk about
Yes.
afterwards why the policies down there are on the agenda soon.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's because we just met Monday night.
Yes.
Yeah.
Mary?
Mary?
Yeah, I don't know if you should answer this at the discussion section or just now, but I'm confused about why we say repeal and replace instead of revise. And I was going to ask
yes.
at the meeting, but I had other meetings Monday. And also I just want to say, we do
actually-
have to be careful about not scheduling things at the same time as other
Yes.
committees.
Mary, you're right on. I asked Neil to say that we need to, in these situations, say revise and update, because we have just adopted this last year. So so there are three different things: repeal and replace, a repeal totally, and then update as a third category. Thank you. I had suggested that.
Neil, did you want to say something about that?
No, I'm looking over at Lauren. We'll know to change it for the future for those legislative updates. Thank you for that feedback.
I know there's been a big learning curve on dealing with policy
Yes.
changes. Thank you, Lauren, for taking this on with us. Okay, any further discussion on that or questions? Okay, now we're moving on to school planning and design. And I know Brendan's not with us tonight because of a family emergency, but Katina can fill in.
Yes, he asked me to be the co-chair this time. And so we approved the minutes of the prior meeting, and Mr. Pereira, I put Mr. Sylvester in the notes. Oh, goodness.
And they were like,
talked
oh no,
about
like,
something
we still
very
want her wearing them. If she doesn't
the
want to-
classrooms that are dedicated to our fifth graders coming in are absolutely beautiful and done. In terms of floors, painting, everything cleaned. So we want the community to know that. And the furniture is expected between the 14th and 15th of April. So it will be a good opportunity for parents to go visit if that's what is being planned. Also, all the surfaces for sports are ready in the schools. And we also discussed capital improvements. Barrow is ongoing replacement of the CIP rooftop units, insulation, and the pavers are going to be replaced now in the spring because of erosion that has happened on the walkways. The North Windham School replacement of the sewage pump is a must, and so that is being given priority. Mr. Doyle, who was present, and I asked him to correct me if I say something wrong, was talking about if we can get some savings and on operational expenses that could help us for next year, but it doesn't seem that that is possible at this time. And when the high school renovated as new is all that is completed, we'll see if there are any materials or items that can be used in other years, right? Yes, okay.
Yeah,
Anyways,
I-
there is a problem with the Wi-Fi services for the solar panels here at the high
Right.
school, and
My
that's.
concern
gonna
about
be-
the capital was there any operational expenses that we could move over to the
Move
capital
over.
improvement
Mhm.
to free up operational money for our budget? And
Yes,
he indicated there wasn't.
yes.
And yes,
Thank
I
you.
also asked a question about the
Solar
solar panels and
panels.
their operation here. And
Mhm.
he indicated there was still some issue with the Wi-Fi, and we aren't really seeing any of the advantage at this point.
Yes, we
but-
haven't been able to calculate the savings. So, and that is the report.
Thank you very much. Katina, thank you for doing double duty. And now we're on to personnel, and that's you, Paula.
Well, compared to all that, I've got a little report. I want to thank Neil and Lauren and Kim for being so accommodating. We had, as you saw on Monday, some difficulty rescheduling some meetings with everything else that was going on. So I thank you for your cooperation and your patience. We had 3 items on our committee agenda, and one was new. It has to do with the process that's used for non-renewal of non-tenured teachers. We haven't had this come before us in a long time, but I do remember in the past that this indeed has happened, that there are many reasons for non-renewal, and those might be budgetary, staffing needs, performance, but usually there's a series of conversations with HR and the building administrator, with documented evidence as to the purpose. But the point of it is that we have a time frame under which we have to have this done. So by April 23rd, what will come before us, the board, is those individuals who are being non-renewed. Now, they do have the option of resigning prior to that moment or that date, or possibly having a hearing, but the usual process is that the names come before us, and then we have to vote publicly on the non-renewal. So that was the first item we discussed. Then we talked about vacancies and resignations only to the extent that our central office is definitely overwhelmed with all of the activities that are going on, budget and everything else. So in order to be able to reconcile an accurate report, we are going to postpone that agenda item until next time. And our report on contract negotiations, we're well into the maintenance. I think at this point, our attorney, Jessica, is speaking with their attorney, Ben, and we think that that is all we need to do to reach an agreement, but we'll be hearing on that one. The next one that's coming up is custodians, and I believe Kim from HR has already had an initial conversation with the Teamsters Union, and so we will be setting dates, I would imagine, for that coming forward. And we had no public comment, and that was it.
Thank you, Paula. You wanted to say something, Neil?
Yes, just Paula mentioned April 23rd, the reason, because that's the last board meeting. The actual deadline is May 1st. So
Sorry.
if if anything were to happen to said meetings, potentially a special meeting at a different time could be held before May 1st, and that's only if renewals came forward.
Okay, thank you.
Lynn? Yeah, just a clarification, Neil. And I want to make sure I'm correct in my understanding. The non-renewal of non-tenured staff is a statute thing. It doesn't necessarily mean they won't be renewed or brought back in September. But if we don't give them a non-renewal by May 1st, then we're obligated to maintain them. There is a ruling within the state. And that's why we're doing this. It's not that we necessarily want to get rid of them or let them go, but statutorily, if we don't give them notice, then we automatically retain them in September. And is that correct?
That is correct.
Thank you.
You, Mark.
Any other questions or comments, Mary?
This is more of a general comment about that I have appreciated seeing the HR updates about Welcome to La Familia. That has been a very nice email in my box.
I especially like seeing what they want to highlight about themselves. It's pretty funny. Yeah, that's very nice. Thank you. Anything else for personnel? Okay, thank you very much, Paula. Now we're on to discussion items, and this first item is discussion of the proposed elementary ed specs for the proposed new consolidated elementary school. And we had done these ed specs a while ago, and in conversations at the committee level, it became clear that there were some other considerations that we needed to add to the ed specs. And the consultants wanted us to have a conversation about that. And we are required to approve this so that when the grant goes in to the state, right, we have the appropriate ed specs to go along with it. Am I correct on that? Yeah, okay. So, so Neil has prepared some slides for us so we don't have to like wade through the multiple pages that are redlined. So Neil's going to synopsize it for us. Right.
Thank you. So, and even some of my slides, I might give the overview. There is a lot of text in some of them, but I wanted to make sure at least that all of the changes that we made were noted in the red line, just so before you make any vote tonight that you're aware of the many changes. And I just want to, in addition to, and I actually completely agree with Mary's comment about the wonderful, beautiful designs that the architects did. They've been actually very accommodating in revising the ed specs. I can say every time I thought, well, oh, I'm ready to share this with the board, there was something new. But to be honest, the approach of the ad hoc committee has been, let's get the best possible school. And if it meant adding or changing something, to do that. So I appreciate that sentiment as well. So that's why you'll see a lot of red lines in the revisions, but that was only to do this and make sure we put forth something and include all the elements of what we want our school to be. So this first page is just talking about, there's just a little notice that this is a revised ed spec on the date of April 7th, because that's when the architects shared it with us. Also, just there's renumbering of pages, and now there's like a Roman numeral outline. Those are minor things, obviously. Next slide, please. So there is just an expanded, it should say project objectives, not projective objectives. I just invented something. Anyways, the project objectives are just basically expanded to include sections on learning environment, small learning communities, safety and security. And then what they did is, the intent of the architects was to provide some options for consideration of sustainability, resiliency, and clean energy, well-being, which is a way to assess, it should say assess health and well-being, and consideration of biophilic design, and consideration of healthy materials. And then the changes to the ed spec, the capacity data, we basically had an adjustment to the enrollment projections to account for the kindergarten legislation. Everyone knows currently our kindergarten And the K that is about a third smaller. And so the projection sort of had that in there, but that won't exist. So we made an adjustment to that, and the architects acknowledged and made that adjustment so that we'll have a large enough building in the future when the anomaly of enrollment goes through. So that was important. And the overview of programs for general education, there is talk about flexible spacing and folding partitions. Again, options to have depending, like for cafeteria, gymnasium, gross motor room, different spaces in case you wanted to use them in different ways, just to have those options available to the committee or once we move forward before we finalize actually any designs. Then this was an added section that was very important to this district to make sure that we included the school-based health center, and also in the classroom specifications. We put more specificity, or it was included in detail, added to the classroom and what will occupy each classroom from the original ed specs that were done a couple years ago. So just to make sure that it was noted, there'd be like basically a bathroom for each kindergarten class, and then to make sure that there was proximity to bathrooms for grades 1 and 2, which I think makes sense. Reduce classroom storage and furniture from like 24 to 22 students. These had a lot to do with compliance regulations and what the current rules were. And then our visual art space was reworded. It's actually the same square footage, but what they did is they took the storage in the classroom and they parsed it out instead of one gross, like total space. And then there was a change for music, from basically to a classroom and one instrumental music room. There used to be 3 total classrooms to 2, and but they added storage, and the furniture was adjusted again for compliance to meet for 48 students versus 80. Yeah, right. So these are just things, and some of these were like, just to note, like at the time, a couple years ago, that was the standard operating whatever. So they were changed based on our architects' recommendations. And then so for phys ed, our gym, we had one large gym. It was reduced from 9,000 to 6,000 square feet, but that, in addition to the gym, there was a gross motor room of 2,150 square feet added. There was a stage platform, stage platform increased from 900 to 950 square feet. There was a note of a possible folding partition in this area. And the gross motor room details, the whole section was added. That wasn't in the original plan. STEM lab, STEAM, thank you. Oh, thank you. STEAM reduced computers from 24 to 22 students. Good catch. Library Media Center space reduced from 4,500 to 3,450 square feet, and space consideration reduced from 50 to 48 students. I would love a sip. Thanks. We're almost there. I promise. Okay, so the ed spec changes, the detail section. We have the intervention spaces that were just reduced a little bit. These are for our interventionists to provide services. We did not have specific for our ESOL staff. We didn't have specific rooms for them, so those were added. We added a section for de-escalation spaces for our specialized programs. And then we did some minor reduction of office spaces. We reduced the supervisor office from 190 to 175 square feet. There was a special ed supervisor for our specialized programs. We had an office there. We had the main office reduced from 900 to 800 square feet. And we had a health services suite, had some added storage and exam area, and also some added specificity to office furniture and space considerations. We're looking at a family engagement center increased from 800 to 850 square feet. We had an added family resource center section. And then our food services, and again, if anyone has questioned Mr. Voll's dedication and knowledge of food service equipment and space, you should just talk to him for 5 minutes. He gave a very articulated conversation on Friday about what was needed. And actually, Mary noted in the meeting, just so you know, Mary, he talked about freezer and cooler space, and that was put into the ed specs. And we talked about that from the high school project. There was some notation about 2 faculty lounges needed. And then custodial office space was increased, and we had some storage spaces increased. And then, yeah, and then finally, in terms of changes, add a note for fields for community use, talking about like potential soccer fields or baseball fields, things that people mentioned in the forum. We're not committing to those, but we put them in there so that they have that option if it avails itself. And then revisions and expansion of site development section, there was notes that they added, the architects did, and then the space summary revised to meet details in previous slides and correct calculations. Basically, those are the 2 numbers pages that basically align to all the details I just spoke to in the pages 21 to 41. And then the final next step, just that's important to note, the committee knows this, but I want the full board and the public to know this. If these ed specs are approved, we need to talk about special legislation and work with Susan Johnson and May Flexer to get reimbursement. And that's actually not 1,600 square feet. It's actually 16,000 square feet gap between the target space and the actual. And that's for specialized programming, family resource center, and the school-based health center. We actually think the reason we're taking this particular approach is in the high school, we've tried space waiver requests, and sometimes we meet some resistance in doing that. By doing this particular, getting the special legislation in, it's in, and if we have trouble with referendums, and I hope we do not have any trouble with referendums, but once the special legislation is set, it's set forever, and when the project is approved, we will get these reimbursements for these programs. And that's all I have.
That's a lot. Thank you. I know some of us that have sat through some of these meetings about this, but it's nice to see it all in one place. Does anybody have any questions, comments? Mark?
Just a technical question, Neil. As I'm looking through my pages, I have black numbers and red numbers. Your report reflected the red numbers.
Yeah.
Was the black numbers that when it was done? Or?
Yeah, and anything that's in black ink was in the original report, I believe.
Okay,
Right.
thank you.
Thank
Now I
you.
understand. Okay.
Yeah, that's correct.
Any other questions, concerns, comments? Because this is what we're going to be putting into, the plan. So if we're not going to get a chance to keep making changes. So something
a
people want to
question.
raise. Yeah, Katina.
Neil, was space for social workers, psychologist included here? I didn't hear those words.
Yeah, those were included, and there was no revisions made from the original ed specs. Those were included in the original plan.
And last question, did you say 1,600 or 16,000?
That should be that's an error on my part. I apologize. That should be 16,000 square feet. And again, that's just the target gap between actually what we did. And that's a lot of that has to do with adding the family resource center and school-based health center. Thank you. And the actual report will have the difference. You'll see it there.
Mary?
Yeah, I'm glad to see that this was revised and, some of the concerns I had previously about the school-based health center wasn't in here. It was really just a kind of copy and paste from another district's plan scaled up a little bit, and we really needed it to be customized for our district. I love this idea of biophilic design, so I do hope we can go forward with a project that is really worthy of our students.
Thank you, Mary. Mark, did you have?
Yeah, I just want to reinforce Neil's last slide. It's important to notice that if we don't get this special exception, that 16,000 extra square feet will be on us. The state won't reimburse us for it. So we would need to look either to how we're going to include that in the budget or look to what will we take out of the building. But this was, our consultants did a good job. They maximized this to make sure, as Mary said, that we didn't miss things like the health center. And so it's a good working proposal for what we want for the new building, but we need to make sure we support the special legislation so we can get it into the new building.
Thank you. Any other discussion? Okay, so we'll be taking action on this under the action items. We're not to action items yet. We're still on discussion with the budget, calendar, and advocacy. And as I said, in my, have a nice evening. Safe travels. We'll be seeing a lot more of you. Um, we had a meeting with the Board of Finance last week here. And we know that next Wednesday, April 16th, the Board of Finance will be meeting again, and they will be discussing what they're thinking of doing around the Board of Ed budget, which we are trying to figure out ways to be prepared for that discussion. And the public may not understand. They have the ability, we asked for 5.8, but they have the final say on what goes forward to the voters in the referendum in May. So what we need to do is be prepared to respond to questions and have alternate proposals for things. And Neil and Rita and Mark and I had some preliminary conversations with the chair of the Board of Finance last night, and I know Rita had some conversations with the finance office and the town manager's office today so that we can prepare. But what Neil and I talked about is we don't want to be going to the Board of Finance with any response other than what we passed as our budget, as the Board of Ed budget, without talking about it with the Board of Ed. So that has to happen before the 16th. So my question to the board is, how do we want to deal with that? We could have a special Zoom meeting and just talk through options and have Neil and Rita show us some different ways that we could be responding to some of the questions that get asked, and what the impact would be if they came to us and said, we're going to give you 3% or we're going to give you 1%. So that's going to happen next week at 7 p.m. at Town Hall before the Board of Finance. And then we were told that there would be a public hearing on what the Board of Finance is proposing. And that will likely be on the date of our next board meeting, April 23rd. So I'm just thinking that if we're fighting for our budget, we may need to prioritize that at 7 o'clock on April 23rd and postpone, cancel our April 23rd meeting. So I'm just like putting that out there. The other thing I want to mention is that at the last board meeting, we decided that we would have 2 online Zoom forums for the public to get onto to learn about our budget. And those dates are April 21st, Monday, April 21st at 7 p.m. and Tuesday, April 22nd at 7 p.m. So we may need to be adjusting our presentation and be prepared for different kinds of questions based on what happens on the 16th with the Board of Finance. So I'm going to open it up. I've said as much as I need to say, but I just wanted to paint a picture for the board of where we're at. Any thoughts, any comments, questions, suggestions? Mary?
Yeah, I'm sad that we're in a pessimistic mode. I also don't understand, we're making our request, and in theory, the areas, the areas in which the Board of Finance may reduce a Board of Education request have been limited by courts and by the state, and yet we're in a situation where we don't know if we're even going to get our request to educate the children of this district, which I just continue to find a very difficult situation. Um, the impacts of the reval are not the fault of the Board of Ed. And, we're seeing that it's happening all over the state, but also some towns have, decided that they won't enact the raises except on a phased-in schedule, and we never talked about that option. So when there are questions of, how the finances of the town work and the impact of something like a reval, I find that to be the Board of Finance's purview, but I don't think their purview is to say the Board of Ed has to save money for the town. So, as I said, I don't like to talk on the pessimistic side of things. I want to advocate for what we asked for because that's what we need. That's that's my comment.
Thank you, Mary. And in fact, it's been said to us by the not the Board of Finance as a whole, but by certain people on the Board of Finance, that it's our job as the Board of Ed to ask for what we need. And it's their job to decide what the town can bear and what the taxpayers can bear. So, I mean, we may not like that, but that's what they are allowed to do. And unless we want to do, I would love it if we didn't have a budget referendum. And some towns don't divide the Board of Ed and the town in the budget referendum. But we have the town charter that we have right now for this time. I see Rose nodding and I agree. Right, I know. I mean, the town manager said he was like surprised to see that our Board of Ed and our town budget were voted on separately. So we need some charter change. That's not going to help us in the next 2-3 weeks when the voters will be going to the polls some Tuesday in May to vote our budget up or down. And I want to say again that last year our budget only passed by 20 votes. So it was very heartening to see all the people in here last week, and hopefully they'll work to get out the vote to support our budget, whatever it is. But I'd like to hear from folks about, can we have a special conversation with some options presented to us by Rita and Neil before the 16th? Do we want to be prepared to cancel our meeting on April 23rd and show up at the Board of Finance public hearing and advocate? Because they could still change their mind after the public hearing. So that public hearing that they're going to have on our budget is going to be really important for us to have probably not just Board of Ed members make the case, but have parents, teachers, staff, students, families who care about education make the case. Katina.
Unfortunately, I'm not going to be here next week, but I agree that we should be like a broken record repeating that we need 5.8. We need 5.8. This is what we have to in order to make the school function. And then if it comes to having to cancel our meeting to be there, I'm all for that.
Thank you. Anybody else?
Yes,
Ilda.
I think that sounds good for us for you guys to put something together and then us either do it on Zoom or in person before the Board of Finance meeting.
We have a Finance and Audit Committee scheduled on the 16th at 6?
Yeah, I believe we do, yes. Oh,
No.
we don't.
End of the
Oh, end of the month. Oh, okay,
Right,
because it's a, yeah, April vacation. But Mark, what do you think about us having a Zoom meeting and those of us who can get on, and we at least like talk through some options?
Right, I think it's, yeah, it's important that the whole board be aware of what options we're looking at. So yeah, I would definitely agree with you. I think it's also important to note that we would, however it turns out, we need to put together a strong campaign to get our own staff out to vote for the budget, because the turnout was so low last year. It won't take a whole lot of extra people to turn it yes or no. But yeah,
So do people want to leave it to us to work with staff to figure out when we could offer a Zoom meeting, and the people from the board who could get on it can get on it before the 16th at 7 PM? Sometime before the 16th at 7 PM. Does that sound okay? And I know you're going to be away on vacation, but you can't be everywhere, Katina. Okay, so we'll work on that. People should be prepared, if they can, come next week to the Board of Finance meeting at 7 PM at Town Hall, where they're going to be talking about this and possibly making some decision about what they're going to put in for our budget. And then we'll have an opportunity on April 23rd to counter that publicly in the public hearing. And we'll have our budget forums on April 21st and April 22nd, and that will be another opportunity for us to talk to the people who get onto those forums about why it's important for them to weigh in. Does that all make sense? Yeah, Paula.
Lynn, the only thing about the 23rd is we have to have a vote on the non-renewal. Is that something that can be done?
We could have a special Zoom meeting
Special
about
Zoom
that.
meeting
Yeah.
will satisfy that?
Couldn't we? Yeah, I mean, as long as it's noticed as a board meeting.
Right, we can do that, and that would only be necessary if we bring
If
forth
you
that.
have any,
Right.
okay.
So it would be like a special meeting at, I don't know, 5:30 or something that
Okay.
night, or,
Yeah,
Whatever,
and
yeah.
I'm for whatever meetings we can do to
right? It's,
get some responses.
I know there's meeting fatigue right now. I mean, we've been asking a lot of this board and the staff. But it is what it is, and we're actually really fighting right now for our budget. So, yes,
I
Hilda?
think one of our problems is a lot of our staff does not live in Windham as far as voting, but I think they definitely can talk it up to the students and have the students go home and tell their parents that it's important. Because I remember one year it passed and a lot of the kids were saying that they went home and they talked to their parents and they told them to vote because the teacher said it's important.
Well, people can tell people when the vote is and to go vote. They can't tell them to vote for the budget or against the budget. They can only tell them to vote.
And the only thing I wanted to add, actually, in one of our presentations, we proudly can say 43% of our staff actually do reside here in town.
Okay. Anything else on that? So we know what we're going to be doing for the next couple of Wednesdays, and there will potentially the Board of Finance hasn't set the date for the referendum in May yet. They probably will do that in the next 2 weeks. Then we'll know what that date is. But once they set the date for the referendum, we're no longer allowed to, as a board, we're no longer to advocate yes or no or anything like that. The the district can't be saying, they can tell them when the vote is and encourage them to vote, but they can't tell them how to vote. Yeah. Yeah. Well, board members can do whatever they want in their free time. Yes. Okay. So we'll move on to action items. So we have a little issue with this, that the RFP that's in our packets is not the correct RFP. We got an updated, much longer RFP document from the lawyer, right? And so my question to you all is, do you want to take a minute, get the new RFP and look at it? Or I hate to postpone action on this because we need to get moving on this. And who has that document?
Lauren's bringing it up. Thank you.
What do you all want to do? You want to take a minute and go through this and maybe have Rita explain it to us?
The only thing I wanted to say about the updated RFP is that most of the pages were inserted by the attorney, and it's the legal, it's all legal documentation. So after page 4, the rest of it is all from the attorney. It's forms, it's how to submit. So that's all I wanted to say about that. You know, the original that went to the Finance and Audit Committee draft before it went to the board is the first 4 pages. And it is time sensitive, but I don't want to, you know, if you guys want to review it, obviously.
Yeah. Why don't you just stay there for a second? And folks, Mark?
Yeah, Linda, I'm prepared to vote for it based on, if I don't trust my attorney to come up with there's nothing I can read in here that I'm going to disagree with her on. So I'm prepared to trust my town attorney and my finance director.
Okay, thank you, Mark. Anybody else? What? You second what Mark said? Okay, there's a great deal of trust in Jessica Ritter. Thank heavens.
Yes.
And
And Rita, I trust Rita.
and Rita. So I would entertain a motion to approve this request for proposal that was handed out to us this evening on getting an employee benefits consultant to help us with the transition that we're going to need to make to the new health plan.
For clarity's sake, can we motion be on the revised F, or was it 7? Just so they make sure there was reference 7. So can we make the
Yeah.
motion
Yes.
on the revised reference 7?
Why don't you make the motion, Mark?
And make the motion to approve revised reference 7, the RFP for employee benefits consultant.
Second.
Motion made by Mark, seconded by Katina. Any further discussion? All those in favor of this, approving this RFP, please indicate by raising your hand. Okay, it's done. You can move forward. The next thing is I will accept a motion to accept a donation of professional learning materials from Dr. David Cormier, which is in it's in our packet. I forget exactly how much it was for, but it was, what? $150. It was charts, wasn't it?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, who would like to make that motion?
So move.
Motion made by Ilda, second. Seconded by Alicia. Any further discussion except to say thank you? Okay, all those in favor, please indicate by raising your hand. Okay. Do we have any budget transfers to deal with this evening? None. I didn't see any in the packet. Okay. Okay, we're on to approval of 2 field trips, approval of 2 Windham Middle School field trips, one to Old Sturbridge Village and the other to the MVP Arena in Albany, New York.
So moved for both.
Motion made to approve both by Ilda, seconded by Alicia. Any discussion?
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm so excited about the MVP arena. We have been watching videos with some of the students that I know, and actually, I'm gonna go.
Way to go. Any further discussion? Mark?
I just wanted, if Neil can expand upon how we got to have this invitation. Was this based on merit
For the,
for the young, yeah, the concert, the MVP concert?
um, it just came to us, for that particular one, it literally just, through that department received an invitation. And they reached out to us and asked us.
So through the work of the staff,
Yes,
the
correct.
musical.
This is staff driven.
Any further discussion? All those in favor, please indicate by raising your hand. Okay, thank you. Now I'll entertain a motion to take action on the proposed, on the revised elementary educational specs for the proposed new elementary school.
So moved.
Second.
Motion made by Mark, seconded by Alicia, who's really fast on the seconds this evening. Any further discussion? All those in favor of this motion to revise the ed specs, please indicate by raising your hands. Your hand. Okay. Okay, passed. Now we have approval of policies discussed at the March 26th board meeting. There's the policy for repeal and replacement, item number 1, item number 2, and items number 1, item number 2, and item number 3. Do you want to take them all at once? Okay, who's making the motion?
So moved for all the policies to be combined.
Motion made by Ilda, second.
So move.
Seconded by Alicia. Any further discussion? All those in favor, please indicate by raising your hand. Okay, is there anybody up for public comment?
Yeah. You voted to combine them, but you didn't.
Oh, okay,
I think that's
sorry.
how we got back here in the first place.
thank you. Okay, we voted to combine them. Now we're going to vote on all of these revisions. Thank you very much. When you're chairing a meeting, you sometimes get tunnel vision and you forget where you are. Okay. Who would like to make that motion to approve them?
So move.
Alicia made the motion to approve them,
Second.
seconded by Ilda. Any further discussion? All those in favor, please indicate by raising your hand. Okay. And then, now we're on to public comment. Is there anybody who would like to speak during public comment? Okay, hearing none, seeing none. I'd entertain a motion to adjourn at 8:24.
I move, we move.
Meeting adjourned.